Hello, everybody.
Hey, hey.
Welcome to our first ever no hype review. Uh, for this edition, for this edition, we're going to be talking about the Batman.
Yep, the hype is past. Most people who would be interested in seeing it have already seen it. We're late to the party, but that's okay because it meant we didn't have to go sit in theaters with people and
Yeah, yeah, and our butts falling asleep sitting for a 3 hour movie.
yes. So let, let's talk a little bit about before we get into spoilers or deeper thought plots. Overall, who would we recommend this movie for?
I would say if you're a very hardcore Batman devotee, or even just a Batman fan in general, I think you'll find some enjoyment in it. If you're just kind of like a casual Batman fan, or you really don't know anything about Batman, you're probably not going to get a whole lot out of it.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really do any sort of what I would call deep Batman cuts. We're not talking like, oh man, they brought in Calendar Man or it's Firefly or not
Yeah,
Firefly. What was um, what, that or Killer Moth or anything weird like that?
yeah, or the Clock King, or
Yeah,
yeah,
man, I just rewatched that Clock King episode of Batman the Animated Series a while back. You can make a kick-ass movie out of that.
you could be like a almost like a Die Hard with a Vengeance
Yeah,
type of story. Yeah.
but we're not talking about the movie they could have made. Let's talk. We're talking about the movie they did make.
Yes. So the Batman
Oh wait,
is
sorry. Just to jump back a little bit, um, I would also say not for the kids, and not
yeah.
even necessarily for the content. Although it's a
Mhm,
hard PG-13, but there are kids who can deal with that.
mhm.
The kids would probably have a hard time dealing with a 3 hour runtime.
Yes, yeah. Um, might have a hard time with the story too.
Right, because it's very interesting. It's basically a police slash political procedural that just
Mhm.
happens to star Batman.
Yeah. Um, obviously this will be a spoiler review. Spoiler review. In case you didn't hear the warning before. Warning again. Spoilers.
You had your chance to watch
Yes.
this movie in the theaters and at home on
Yes.
HBO Max.
Yes. Um, so
No complaining allowed.
no complaining allowed. Yes. I don't. We don't want to hear it in the comments. Um, but the movie is as DV said, it's a police political procedural. It starts off where the mayor of Gotham is killed by the Riddler, and it's basically like a little bit of. I know that they got a lot of inspiration from Seven for
Hmm.
this movie, and maybe a little bit of like Zodiac with the old the Zodiac killer in San Francisco back in the 70s. Because the Riddler is basically taunting Batman, and he's leaving all sorts of clues for him. He's leaving riddles and he's leaving ciphers and that kind of thing.
Right. Which I gotta say that opening scene where you had Batman wandering around in the on the police investigation, I
Mhm.
found myself saying, "Man, this might be the least convincing Batman ever." And I think that was on purpose. And when I
Mhm.
say least convincing, I mean just like normally you see Batman on the side of a building with Gothic architecture or in the
Mhm.
midst of a bunch of goons fighting or facing off with a costume freak. It just strikes you how weird the whole Batman thing is when you see him just wandering around a bunch of detectives doing their jobs.
Yeah, yeah, it's yeah. You see, a bunch of forensic people and everything at a crime scene. Like, oh, there's this guy walking around dressed like a bat. What?
Right. I don't think that was on accident. Eh, I'll also
Hmm.
say this is one of the more practical bat suits we had. Like he actually had this smarts to make it bulletproof,
Yes.
and he can move his head in the costume.
Yeah, and it's not like one of the things that always kind of drove me nuts with a lot of Batmans, especially like the animated series, is like he just kind of reaches into his belt and pulls out whatever he needs, and it's like, oh, it's just right, pulls out a gas mask, like,
Mhm.
like none of that with this.
Right. He pulls out one thing from his, not even his utility belt. He has it like strapped to his leg, as I recall.
Hmm.
And it's like, okay, that is a sensible thing for him to have around to re- resuscitate himself if he's injured.
Yes.
And I think that's the biggest thing is it's a very grounded story
Hmm.
for the most part. It's not, there's nothing that's physically impossible that really happens.
Right.
There's no superpowers. The Riddler's plan is up until the end, and we can talk about the end,
Hmm.
extremely pedestrian and really just more designed to. It, it's built around humiliation, I guess, or it's built around uncovering secrets.
Yeah. Yeah, and and I will say too, the fight scenes are very. I would say probably the most realistic fight scenes I've ever seen in a Batman movie.
Right. In fact, let's kind of get into. So we've kind of set the play, or we set the playing field. It's Batman meets Seven with the Riddler as the serial killer.
Hmm.
I really appreciated how Pattinson portrayed Batman. I always say that you kind of have to give Batman actors the benefit of the doubt because
Hmm.
think about the last time or the last several times that a Batman character has been cast. I remember a friend of mine when when before the Dark Knight came out and they cast what's his name as the Joker,
Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger. He kept calling him Brokeback for the whole summer and was convinced he would do a bad job before that actually came out. But
Well,
because a big chunk of what makes a Batman character is the costume and performance.
mhm.
So you know the fact that Pattinson was mostly known, for me at least, for looking sullen and unhappy about the stupid movies he was in that he hated, but he was stuck with them and he got to make a paycheck.
Yeah,
It,
yeah,
it was my vision of it, and that is not what he was at all.
yeah,
The- His Bruce Wayne is a clever, broken person, and I've never felt so sorry for Bruce Wayne before. Doesn't he just like he
yeah,
needs a hug every time
yeah,
he's out in public?
yeah. The funeral scene when he's at the mayor's funeral, and he looks sullen the entire time. It's just like, oh man, this poor guy.
Yeah,
Like,
and
jeez.
it actually it comes across in how people approach him because like they feel like they know that there's something wrong with him.
Mhm. Yeah, and definitely a departure from like say Christian Bale's
Hmm.
Bruce Wayne, who was pretending to be the playboy, man about town type guy, and of course in find out in the Dark Knight Rises that Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character saw right through it, but I thought. But yeah, it's I was pleasantly surprised by Pattinson's
Hmm.
Batman, like and his Bruce Wayne. I thought I was a little afraid it was going to be Edward Cullen,
Yeah,
but no, he was pretty convincing as a young Bruce Wayne. In his second year as Batman.
right. Still getting his legs under him.
Hmm.
I'd say the casting was pretty good all around.
Yeah,
There were some people who were like, "Oh, it's woke Batman, bat. We got a black Commissioner Gordon, we got a black Catwoman." Well, for
yeah,
one thing, we've had a black Catwoman since the '60s, so
yeah.
it's
Eartha Kitt. Yeah.
yeah. So shut up about that.
Yeah, well, and Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, she reminds me of Catwoman in Batman Year One, kind of similar
Yeah,
look. Not as big, but similar vibe to her.
right. That's definitely that was definitely what they were drawing from, I think.
Hmm.
Uh, Also, she may be the person with the figure, especially like some of the scenes where she's in her cat suit, where it's like, wow, she actually looks like the wasted women that Bruce Timm would always draw for Justice League.
Yeah, yeah,
and
Yeah.
she was great. Gordon was good.
Mhm.
The Penguin was fantastic.
Yeah. You know who that was playing Penguin, though?
I know that I am having a bad day for actor names.
It's Colin Farrell.
Yeah, that's right. I knew it was
Yeah.
somebody that you would not expect. It's like, wait,
Yeah.
you got Colin Farrell and you just put that much Elephant Man makeup on him to make him look like the Penguin?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
it be faster to find a guy who's already fat?
Yeah. Yeah. I told my mom was watching the movie when my parents were in town, and when I told her who was playing the Penguin, she was like, "Didn't look anything like him."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he was really good as Penguin. If they do another like follow up with, if they do like another follow with this crew, hopefully they'll he gets a little more to do in the next installments.
In fact, I would say the only actor I had an issue with, and this is how to put it. This is like less he did a bad job. This is less it's a bad idea. It's more just yeah, he's supposed to be off-putting. Was the Riddler himself?
Hmm.
Because they're going for much more of like an incel QAnon type thing with him.
Yeah, yeah. As opposed to the mad genius of
Mhm.
say like this, the animated series Batman.
Right. Right. It is a very different take on the character because like the thing with the Riddler, and they had episodes where they played around with him going straight, but he just could not stop himself from committing crimes and leaving hints about it.
Yeah.
It, it's like in that one, his whole flaw was he could be anything he wanted to be, but he had, and he could make crimes where he could get away with it anytime he felt like. But no, he couldn't leave well enough alone. He had to have everybody know how great he was.
Yes. Yeah, he was that narcissistic and egomaniacal that yeah, he had to let everybody know that it was him. Yeah.
This Riddler is much more. It's more sympathetic than that
Mhm.
because uh, basically the whole movie is about the corruption. Oh yeah,
Mhm.
the other woke casting.
Mhm.
See the air quotes.
Yes.
What which got my attention at first, but then I quickly saw why they did it was um, what Real, who was the black, presumably
Mhm.
Hispanic
Uh,
uh, female candidate.
yeah.
At first, like okay, yeah, uh, okay, yeah, Real change, haha, that's real funny.
Yeah.
But but then I realized that this movie was already long enough. If you'd had another white guy in there, you would have had to have multiple scenes proving he wasn't part of the old boys club that the movie is all about dismantling.
Yeah.
Having her be different than that is just a quick way to save some screen time in a movie that really needed to save its screen time.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so let's get back to so let's address the elephant in the room that we keep prodding at the
Mhm.
runtime. Uh,
Yes.
the whole time through, and friends of mine on Skype can confirm this. I kept going. I can't believe there's still an hour and a half left in this movie. I
Hmm.
can't believe there's still an hour and 10 minutes left in this movie. How are there still 50 minutes left in this movie? How
Yeah.
is there still a half hour left in this movie?
Hmm. Yeah. It's 3 hours and it feels like 3 hours.
Yep. And and we were talking about me and my friends were like, well, what would you cut? And it's like, well, I mean, as great as he was, Colin Farrell Penguin, technically you could give him just a tiny handful of scenes.
Hmm. Yeah, as cool as that the car chase was, I mean, it's a little tacked on.
A little unnecessary.
Yeah.
The movie did fail the did I want to take my phone out and start screwing around partway through the movie test.
Yeah.
Which I try to pass that test when I'm watching a movie, especially for a review like this, but
Mhm.
I'll admit that I was a little bit disengaged halfway through the movie. I think on a second watch I would do a better job, just because once you kind of have the schema of how the movie works, I I'd be able to pay attention better.
Yeah, yeah. I think where it kind of it gets into the weeds about I would say probably about an hour into it when they were going through, the corruption with all the officials, and then, figuring out like, okay, well, how does the Maroni's, one of the plot points there was this big drug bust where Maroni got pinched, and like, oh well, they shut down his drug operation, but they really didn't shut it down, and who's really running it, and it really just kind of got a little too convoluted, and for me, that's kind of where it was starting to lose me a little, because I'm just like, okay, what does this have to do with the Riddler going around killing people?
Yeah, I would almost say that you could do with one less corrupt politician to be brought down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you take, okay, maybe get rid of the corrupt DA, or well, maybe not the corrupt DA, but maybe the
Right, because
corrupt,
that church scene was great.
Yeah, that church scene was really good. Maybe the corrupt police chief, or
right, or you combine a few elements, or
yeah, they could have, there was a lot they could have condensed in the plot. Yeah.
And like I found myself in the last scene with him and Catwoman going, okay, come on, I get it, you two can't be together, chop chop chop, moving on. And that isn't even necessarily fair, because that was a well acted, pretty well written scene. It's just that by then my patience cup was empty.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It could have done with a lot more. I mean, there was about 20 or 30 minutes out of that movie that they could have easily gotten rid of, and
Right.
it would not have affected the movie. I don't think it wouldn't have affected the plot all that at all, really.
Right. I think a lot of the scenes were also directed a little bit too long, because you could have probably cut it, not made a whole scenes, but you could have cut individual bits out of scenes.
Yeah.
And that would have helped a lot. And it's a shame. I recently, for our regular show, I did. There was an anime movie that I watched with a friend called Pompo the Cinephile, where it's about a first-time director / editor, and you think that the conflict of the movie is going to be the filming process, but no, that goes pretty smoothly. The battle is in the editing bay,
Yeah.
where he has to, he has a hard time wanting to cut out all of these scenes that the actors worked so hard on and that they loved, even though, like, oh, the actors had this idea for a spontaneous scene and I didn't really like it, but they love it. And that would have made this movie just sing. I feel like there's a 9 out of 10 version of this movie that that trimmed the fat a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're gonna have a movie be 3 hours long, you got to earn it.
Right, and very few do.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's like it's also combined with the fact that it's a slower plot, but in general, because this isn't action Batman who's firing machine guns out of the Batmobile and explosions every 3 seconds.
Right. Yeah.
This is a grounded Batman Year Two, Denny O'Neil 70s style Batman story, where it's an actual mystery. And I you know what I've missed? I've missed real movies.
Yeah.
That's gonna sound weird to say, but it's like
Yeah.
it's like the characters didn't talk like they knew they were characters in a story, which even the Nolan Batman movies were guilty of.
Yeah.
They there was actually a soundtrack. There were a couple of pop songs, but they were like they were like moody, and they fit. Wasn't there a Nirvana song or a Nirvana style song in there?
Yeah, I think there was.
Yeah. And that fit the style and tone of the movie so well, and it was just used for one transition.
Yeah.
The characters had sensible character arcs, and you understood it. Like the ending was they went a little bit crazy on the ending.
Yeah.
And maybe on a second watch through, I would mind it as much as other people did. But I think it's because I kind of hit at the 2 hour mark, I'd kind of had my patience cup emptied. It hit me the same as everything else, but I actually enjoyed that last fight scene. Oh, and Batman was a badass, but he earned being a badass, and he struggled. He beat Catwoman early on in a fight in a way that it's clear that he was the superior fighter.
Yeah.
Like this wasn't Tom King's comic book Batman where Catwoman is Cat Mommy and she has to save him from Bane.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
this was not a bait and switch. You're getting full Batman here. You're getting the Batman we deserve to see.
Oh,
My
yeah.
but what I as soon as I finished that movie, I was like, okay, Snyderverse fans, I'm sorry that you like a bad movie written by people who don't know how to write movies. Uh, uh, this is what an actual story is like.
Yes.
There are character interactions that you can follow.
Mhm.
There is a through line. Characters talk like characters, and you're not baited with, oh, dark future Batman. Isn't that going to be cool to see? This movie doesn't care if what's cool to be seen. It cares about actually doing its story.
Yeah.
I've tried to be generous with the Snyderverse, but it's like if you spent years eating cardboard cutouts that looked like food, and then somebody hands you a like. So I have two food analogies. One is like it's like you spent years eating cardboard cutouts that looked like food, and then someone gives you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and it's like that peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like for most people, that would just be like, oh, that's a decent meal, but kind of simple. Like, oh man,
Yeah.
this is food.
Yes.
This is what that's like.
Yeah.
This is what it's
Yeah.
like to have a movie with a vision.
Hmm.
Because it's like Snyderverse. It's all big ideas told by an idiot. I'm gonna say it like that. I've tried to be generous with it, but it's like, Pa Kent, he would try to protect him. Okay, but you expressed it in the worst way possible.
Yeah.
Maybe you should let them die.
Yeah.
Which is taken out of context, but that movie is so easy to take out of context because it's badly written.
Yes. Yeah, it's well, to quote William Shakespeare, it is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Yep. Meanwhile, on the flip side, Marvel movies are just all flash and charisma and pop music and very little substance.
Yeah.
So it's the opposite problem almost. It's like the Snyderverse stuff has been like, aren't I serious? Look at how serious and cool I am.
Yeah.
This is awesome, and you should have a boner the entire time you're watching this because it's so awesome. Marvel movies like, hey, we don't take anything seriously. Woohoo! Oh, an ancient dragon is going to destroy the world if Shang-Chi doesn't do this. Hey, you know what's funny? A little fluffy dragon with no head. It has two butts. Isn't that wacky?
Whoa! Yeah.
Hey, remember the fake Mandarin from Iron Man 3? He's here too, and he's wacky because he's an old drugged out hippie. Wasn't that the guy who played Gandhi? Yeah, but now he's wacky.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah, but yeah.
Sorry, that rant has been in me for a little bit, and this movie just made it come out because
No, no worries. I think everyone will enjoy watching that. But getting back to Batman, I think one of the things that I think this movie does do really well, and it's something that, if done right, it is a very effective method of storytelling. Is that you show your villain as little as possible,
mm-hmm.
and when you do show him, it's jarring.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they did that pretty well with the Riddler, because because you don't actually see his face until the very end, without his mask or anything.
Sorry, I thought that might be a delivery outside, but yeah, and that was the interesting thing, is that the Riddler was like an intentional anti-climax without his mask, because you're just supposed to see what he is the mirror image of Bruce in this one. Like
Hmm.
he's the broken orphaned boy who decided to become vengeance.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and you're right. Like they used him well.
Yeah. Yeah. And and he's not too over the top either. I was worried about him being like really, I I like this version of the Riddler. I probably like him a lot better than say you know like Jim Carrey
Mhm.
or Frank Gorshin. Where he's not this like wacky and
Yeah. I mean, it's not comic book accurate, but that's okay. You're a movie. As long as the changes are sensible and aren't insulting, then
yeah,
you're fine to make little changes.
yeah. Um, but I guess we should get into the ending. Um, so we transition. What was about like 2.5 hours in the movie, 2.25 hours in the movie.
Yeah,
We
something like that. The
Yeah.
Riddler on election day finally puts in his big plan.
Yeah. So it goes from like detective murder mystery to Gotham is in danger and needs to be saved.
Yeah, like Die Hard type stuff. Like
Mhm.
not first Die Hard, like Die Hard sequels level.
Yeah.
We're gonna blow up the sea wall, and the city's gonna flood, and everybody's gonna flee into the um everyone's gonna flee into the main building. And in the main building, I have all my incels who are also dressed like the Riddler with rifles.
Yeah, and they're just gonna start picking people off, and Batman shows up and has to fight him off, and it was a pretty cool set piece. I mean, pretty cool
Yeah.
action set piece.
Also, they had the balls to shoot the mayor. Like
Mhm.
because you're kind of used to writers treating certain characters with kid gloves, but now she just got shot in the side.
Yeah, that was surprising. Yeah.
Now at that point, I was actually kind of frustrated. I was at my patience cup empty. Kind of, please let this movie end. I want to do some writing tonight. Oh my god, I'm feeling these 3 hours mode. I was like,
Yeah.
and I was thinking to myself, "Shooter, you cowards!" Blam! Holy crap, they actually did it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Catwoman
yeah.
comes in and saves him in an opportune moment, but not in a way that emasculates him. It's because he was one guy fighting a whole army of guys with long rifles and shotguns.
Yeah, and then he has to save her.
Hmm.
Yeah, and he pulls out his little emergency adrenaline and shoots himself up, and.
Yeah, this is not Book of Boba Fett where oh, it's the Batman, but it's the stealth Catwoman movie you racist sexists wouldn't watch if we didn't put the name on there.
Yes, yeah.
That like this is a really good Batman version.
Hmm. And I'll also give it to Pattinson. He spends the majority of the movie in the batsuit.
Yeah, like it's actually I think that was also an intentional choice because it makes it very jarring when you see him as Bruce Wayne. He's just this guy with an emo haircut and just
Mhm.
who's just looks tired and broken.
Yeah, yeah, and of course, when they and the whole backstory with his parents. I don't know. Did you play the Telltale series?
I played part of the first episode. By that point, I was kind of telltaled out.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing with Bruce's father and his mother and the with Falcone and everything that was in Telltale the first season.
I want to say that was taken from either year one or year two. I think.
Might have been it may have been year two
Uh, I
since
also know that they did some Long Halloween in there too.
yeah
But
yeah
it's been
because
20 years since I read Long Halloween.
yeah although they made Thomas Wayne a little at least Alfred makes Thomas Wayne sound a little more sympathetic because he was
Hmm.
protecting Martha.
Hmm.
Um, which I guess we should mention Andy Serkis as Alfred.
He's kind of easy to forget in this big movie, isn't he?
Yeah, because he's not in it that much.
No. Yeah, which I think actually kind of fits this movie because think about Batman v Superman and the Nolan trilogy. Alfred was always spouting off at Bruce about what he should do with himself.
Hmm.
This is an Alfred who's like kind of subtly helping, but also being awake during the day to keep his, try to keep some semblance of his life intact.
Yeah. Yeah, and keep his business afloat, which he doesn't. That's actually one thing that kind of bothered me was Bruce Wayne not really caring about his family business and whether it still runs or not. I'm like, dude, do you want money?
Yeah.
Do you want income to be able to keep being Batman?
It does kind of just show it, just how obsessive and weird he had gotten.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, one thing I was like, he kept saying, "I am vengeance," and then the Riddler said it back to him, and suddenly he didn't like that quite so much.
Yeah.
It's like that, like I think that like that whole thing there, every choice where you could go and go, ugh, Bruce, you dummy, you need money to function.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is a writer who is creating a character and is putting that character on an arc to some sort of self-realization and discovery.
Yes.
This isn't Zack Snyder taking panels from doing what he did with 300 and just painting visual pictures with panels he took from um, what's his I'm out of it today. It's Thursday, folks. Taken from Dark Knight from the
Yeah.
80s.
Frank Miller, yeah, Dark
Frank
Knight
Miller, yeah,
Returns.
taking
Yeah.
Frank Miller panels like he did with 300
Yeah.
and turning them into cool looking visual things. Okay, but what's the story about? Oh, well, Lex Luthor says that Superman is a god and therefore bad because God didn't stop his dad from beating him.
Okay.
It's like, okay, so you have successfully had your character state what the Wikipedia summary of the subplot should be. How about you develop it some?
Yeah.
No, I'm just going to have Mark Zuckerberg to say, I'm just going to have Mark Zuckerberg put a Jolly Rancher in a man's mouth to show he's insane.
Oh God, I forgot about that scene. Oh, I forgot about that scene. Oh God.
Yeah, like the most cringe is when Zoe Catwoman accuses Bruce of having white privilege. Yeah,
Yeah.
which honestly, as a friend of mine put it, you can kind of see him rolling his eyes under the mask when she says that.
Yeah. Like, oh, come on.
Uh, like, and that's the other thing is when you have an actual writer with an actual director, you forget the writer and director are there
Mhm.
because it's like it makes sense for a put upon girl who's working as a cocktail waitress at the Penguin's place, who knows that she is the bastard offspring of the richest, most powerful man in Gotham, whose name isn't Wayne. Like
Mhm.
she's gonna have a chip on her shoulder, probably on both.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the language she would use. That is actual characterization.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. I think they developed the characters in this movie pretty well. I mean, from Batman to Catwoman, and even Gordon, I think goes through a bit of an arc.
Yeah, and when they were announcing this movie, they were talking about doing a Gotham TV series about the police department. It's like,
Mhm.
who would possibly want that? It's like, you know what? This version of the Gotham PD that could actually be interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially if they got Jeffrey Wright and they're playing Gordon, that could be
Yeah, have a little bit of Batman here and there. You could really
yeah,
do some stuff with it.
yeah, and they could actually hopefully it'll be a lot better than the other Gotham PD show that they did.
Like actually, no, that was on Fox, not the CW. Never mind.
Yes, yes, fine. Well, it might as well have been on the CW.
And um, uh, and it sounds like I really loved this movie because I keep gushing about it, but that runtime, it just really like it was ruining it for me towards the middle.
Yeah, I think it. this is not it's not a horrible movie. I mean, I
No.
thought I thought it's a good movie. It's not. It certainly has its flaws, and
Mhm.
it's it's far from being. I would put it up there with with Burton's Batman.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge fan of the Nolan Batman. I'm a weird outlier that way. So I would
No.
say, so if you asked me, hey, would you rather rewatch one of the Nolan movies or the Batman? I would say the Batman.
Yeah, although I will say I think the Batman's better than the Dark Knight Rises.
Oh man, damning it with faint praise.
Yeah.
uh, the, the way I think I'll sum up my feelings on it is that I promised two food analogies before. Here's the second
Right.
one. So you go over to your grandmother's house for Thanksgiving, and she has her famous pie that she makes every Thanksgiving. And oh, um, she made it. She made it last night. It's all ready to go. But there was a blizzard, and a bunch of your family members weren't able to come. Well, we can't let the pie go bad. So here, have some pie. Have some more
Mm.
pie. Have some more pie. Granny, I'm getting kind of full. No, we can't let the pie go to waste. Have some more pie. Oh God, I don't even like the taste anymore. This was delicious to start with. It's like, have some more pie. Yes, we get it. We get it. We get the Riddler's insane and thinks he's like a mirror image of Batman, and he wants Batman's help. Okay. Oh God, not more Ave Maria, please, no more Ave Maria. You've driven this leitmotif into the ground. Please stop. No, now the Riddler's actually singing Ave Maria.
Yeah.
Please, no,
Yeah. Yeah.
no mas, no mas.
No, no mas.
Um, and so it's actually, you know what it is? It's the full movie equivalent of the ending of Return of the King,
Mm.
where it's like it feels like the pacing is off.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say that's probably the this movie's fatal flaw is the pacing is which you know, counts for the 3 hour runtime.
Which is funny because it's like Warner Brothers learned the wrong lesson from Batman v Superman.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like, oh well, I guess we let the director make it as long as he damn well pleases. Nope, you can't. See, you can't micromanage, but you can't also do no oversight.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay, so on a scale of 1 to, you want to do 1 out of 5?
Let's do 1 out of 10. Gives
One
you
out
some
of
more
10. Okay, so
granularity.
scale of 1 to 10. All right, 1 out of 10. Where would you put it?
I'm going to give this a 7. It has the
7.
makings of a 9, but the pacing kind of disrupts it. I would definitely say don't try to watch it all in one sitting.
Mm,
There's a reason it didn't make $1 billion in theaters, and it wasn't because of COVID, and it wasn't because people weren't interested in superhero movies. Clearly, see
mhm.
Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. It's that 3 hour runtime is just killer.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably put it maybe a little. I would put it a little higher. I'd say 7.5
Hmm.
out of 10. Um, it's my opinion of it is very similar to yours. It's a great story. Love the I thought Pattinson was really good as Batman.
Hmm.
Uh, Zoe Kravitz was really good as Catwoman. I thought the acting in general was great. Um, but yeah, it's pacing is very slow and in parts, and the story gets a little convoluted, kind of in the middle. And yeah, it's just it could have done with with some trimming. It could have done with some trimming.
I almost want to see the studio interference cut, not the director's cut.
Yeah.
That would actually that'd be a hilarious like DVD to come out with. Is like the studio interference cut, the cut if we'd actually done our jobs.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But hopefully that. I mean, I figured they'll recalibrate.
Mhm.
Hopefully they got the right feedback, and I would be down for a sequel that learned lessons from its predecessor.
Yes. Yeah.
Also, I say give Pattinson a Robin, you cowards.
Yeah, yeah,
Because that's a version of Batman that would actually really benefit from that kind of thing. Just to like have some, just see how he would respond to forced levity in his life.
yeah. Which Robin would you pick? Would you have
Um,
Dick
so,
Grayson
so
or
for this Batman, I would do Dick Grayson. Yeah,
Dick Grayson?
like,
Okay.
like you would need a. I would actually say that Jason Todd would be a good one for Batfleck if he had gotten to have his own movie.
Mm,
Just
yeah.
because you could have actually had the story of Jason Todd dying by the Joker's hands before Batman v Superman to
Mm,
like instead of just telling us about it and leaving us to follow the breadcrumbs
yeah.
online.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not turning this into a Snyder hate fest. It's just that like the thing is, I had been starting to like slowly get worn down on the Snyderverse. Like, oh, it's pretty good. Justice League was a fun watch. The Snyder cut was a fun 4 hours, and I watched it with a friend, and I had a good time. Maybe they didn't always do the best job of explaining their ideas, but there are some good ideas in there. No, screw having good ideas. You have to actually be able to communicate them. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And this movie made me realize what we'd been missing. Like just tighten
Yeah.
up the pace a little bit, and this is the kind of low key Batman movie that I want more of. Like I said, it's like, oh my god, real movies again, not this 2020 drivel that we've been getting, or 2010s
Mhm.
2020 drivel that ever since everybody's decided to become Baby Driver and Guardians of the Galaxies at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This movie was definitely a breath of fresh air, and
Mhm.
yeah, and I actually do hope that they do a sequel to it, and maybe like you said, tighten things up, and you know
Mhm.
get another really good old grounded Batman story.
Oh my god, did I just become a Robert Pattinson fan? Unironically.
Unironically, man, yeah, I think we have, yeah.
Dang, life comes at you fast.
Yes, it does. All right. Well, we appreciate anybody who coming on to watch us talk about the Batman. Give us a like, subscribe if you haven't already.
Hit the little dingy bell.
Hit the little dingy bell, yeah. And be sure to check us out every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific for our critique corner live stream. So,
Yep.
yeah. All right.
Every week, except for when we don't.
Yes. All right. Take it easy, everybody.
Have a good night.